Hi, my name's Caroline. I'm a humanistic integrative counsellor. And today I wanted to do a video about an experience that I had, a challenge that I set myself. This is a few months ago now, and I've actually spent part of the time since this challenge just kind of processing it really, and making a few notes and trying to understand whether this challenge has made any long lasting difference to my life, and whether it's something that would be helpful for other people to hear about. Um, and as you might be able to see, I'm a little bit tan, so I've just got back from a really lovely holiday, and I actually spent a bit of time on my holiday sort of really thinking about this experience that I'd had, and thought, actually, yes, I think it has really made a difference to my life, and that's something that hopefully I can share with you today. And yeah, if you feel like accepting the challenge yourself, um, then of course that's up to you. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it. So my challenge was, I'd been thinking for a while about, I'd heard of Vipassana retreats. So this is a Buddhist concept, whereby you go and stay away from the world, and you don't take your mobile phones, and the idea is that you spend some time not talking. I think some of them you also don't bring books, and you spend the time meditating, doing sort of chores, like helping out, and obviously sleeping and eating a wholesome diet. I think that's pretty much it. I'm not sure if there's any other activities, possibly some gratitude practice. I don't know, but the key concept around it is that there is no talking or any contact with the outside world. And I'd been wondering about this for a while, because obviously talking is the main thing that I do in my life as my job, and I'm a pretty sociable person as well, so I do a lot of it in my spare time. And I was just wondering how that would feel for me to push myself out of my comfort zone by spending some time not talking, and seeing what would happen. Um, and I regularly practice yoga, meditation, and I I consider myself to be sort of regularly sort of trying to be very mindful of what I eat and how I live my life. But I felt, well, there's always room for improvement, isn't there? So I thought, well, before I sign up for a full Vipassana retreat, let's see if I can do that by myself, just for a day, um, and let's see how hard that is for me. Um, and also, I'm really aware that very often in my work with clients, and if you've watched any of my videos, you'll quite often hear me sort of encouraging taking time out, journaling, taking time to just stare at the wall or stare at the window, or have a bath, or just doing or not doing the things that can help you and help your nervous system settle, because we do live such a fast-paced life. If you're anything like me, constantly on and off the phone, checking messages, scheduling clients, doing meetings over Teams, you know, hectic life, and even when I'm not working, you know, there's a lot of stuff. There's always stuff to be done, isn't there? And my to-do list is probably about as long as yours is, and just tends to, or it feels like it gets longer and longer rather than ever getting any shorter. So I knew that even though I do practice sort of meditation, mindfulness, I also know that I'm quite an active person. I like to feel as though I'm achieving things. I like to feel like I'm ticking things off my to-do list. And so yeah, I challenged myself to spending a day not picking up my phone, not speaking to anyone, not doing, in inverted commas, anything other than the real basics of, obviously, sort of basic hygiene, you know, washing and brushing teeth and all the rest of it, eating and drinking, and you know, maybe a bit of stretching, or go for a walk if that's what I wanted to do. But other than that, I challenged myself to, yeah, just kind of just sitting, um, and I thought, you know what, I think this will be fine. You know, it might be a little bit tricky at times, but I thought, no, you know what, I've got this sussed. It'll be easy. But yeah, so anyway, I thought I'd do a video just to sort of feedback, really. And it really was not easy. The first, I would say the first half hour was actually one of the hardest times, and I literally sat on the sofa staring at the clock. I was sort of wishing it to move faster, and I had a bit of a sore throat when I at the start of the day. Nothing too bad, but of course, if you're not distracting yourself from being in the moment, the pain actually feels a lot worse, or it did for me. Um, and it wasn't a big pain by any stretch of the imagination, but it just felt really kind of present, and I felt quite frustrated that, you know, I'd set myself this challenge, and then all of the sort of the recriminations started, and sort of the, you know, well, why did you set yourself this challenge on a day when you don't feel very well, you know, and then sort of the to-do list started sneaking up on me. You know, you've got this to do, you've got that to do, why aren't you doing this? You've got this whole day off, there's so much you could achieve. You know, what do you think you're doing? Like, how is this helping you? How is this going to help anyone? And that felt really challenging, just sitting there and trying to do the practice of noticing my thoughts, but not getting caught up in those thoughts, and trying to allow myself to just feel as though, you know, that these thoughts aren't me. These thoughts are just something that are sort of coming and going. And so that first half hour I found was really, really hard. And when all those initial thoughts around, oh my God, there's so much you should be doing, what are you doing sat on the sofa, I started to think about, you know, what is it that I'm afraid of? What is it about sitting still with my thoughts? What is it that's so challenging for me? Because really, my sore throat, you know, it was a niggle, and you know, I've had far worse. So what was it about this, you know, sore throat that was really getting on my goat? And actually, it wasn't anything to do with the sore throat. I realised it was that my brain was working really, really hard to come up with thoughts and frustrations in order to distract myself from feeling feelings that I hadn't yet allowed myself to experience. And I've talked about this in quite a few videos, and I often talk about it with my clients about how clever our brains are, because no one really wants to feel sad or angry or scared. And so our brains have this really clever way of creating these million and one things we need to do, or million and one thoughts that we need to be thinking about, or puzzles we need to solve, questions, and we can get so distracted and caught up. I talked about it, I think, in my last video, looking at sort of spiraling thoughts and the idea of these intrusive thoughts that keep coming back, and you just keep getting caught up in this loop of trying to solve a problem that, quite often it's your brain that's created the problem in the first place, and then you end up spiraling down trying to figure the problem out and trying to find a solution, when actually what we really need to be doing is sinking down through those thoughts and allowing those really difficult feelings to emerge. And I think for me, I've been in therapy for years, more than 20 years. So I mostly consider myself I sort of felt like, well, I've, tackled most of the hard stuff in my life. Surely there can't be anything left, to look at. And I've also been single for 2 years now. So I thought, well, I'm going to be okay. I'm very used to my own company. Why would sitting on the sofa be so hard, when I've done the work. I've been there, done that, got all the t-shirts. And I that probably was something that I also had to sort of push through and admit to myself that yes, I had done a lot of work, but there was still stuff that I needed to look at. And so gradually, as my thoughts kind of ebbed away, did they ebb away? They just didn't. They just weren't so insistent. And I think as I was able to, when I stopped resisting the idea of sitting there, when I stopped feeling as though I was wasting time, when I started to allow myself this day, it's one day, and I really had to get in that mindset of, this is one day in my life. What can possibly be so important that I can't take one day to sit on my sofa and just reflect and to be still. And I think once I'd sort of given myself that permission, but it took a while. It probably took, I'd say it took a good hour and a half for me to really sink in, and I really noticed it in my body. And one of the things I was doing throughout the day was taking notice of what my body was doing during the day. And certainly in the first part, I was really, my shoulders are up here, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I know it's supposed to be good for me, but why, and it's amazing how much pressure I put on myself. So there was no one there judging me. No one cared that I wasn't running around with my hoover and mop. um but I was still judging myself, even though I knew that actually this was going to be a really helpful, I knew it probably would be a really helpful piece of self-development work that I could do for free. um just, and and I imagine, there are people who'd give their right arm to have a day where they didn't have to do stuff. And that was something that was coming up for me as well, the guilt of, I'm sat here complaining about sitting on the sofa, and there are people with, having to work today, there are people having to care for other people, or who maybe don't have a sofa, don't have the luxury of a roof over their head. And so all of that guilt came up as well. A huge amount of stuff that I carry, and that I think that we as human beings carry around with us. Just the guilt of allowing ourselves a day off, but then also resenting ourselves for having that day off. And I realized that if I'd given myself a day off and had, say, gone out for the day with a friend, I wouldn't spend the whole day feeling guilty about being with a friend. I wouldn't spend the whole day thinking, I might spend some time thinking, oh, I probably should be washing the car. But there was something about just being sat on the sofa and being alone with my thoughts that really exacerbated all of those feelings and fears and sort of resentments, that we obviously, just carry, sort of low level, are there, but we push them away with all these things that we must do. And so, yeah, what did I achieve? And I think that's it, isn't it? It's like, do I didn't want to have that whole day and not have something to show for it still. um and that's the irony, isn't it? Having a day off, you know is there something to show for that? Do we need a certificate? Do I need to? But yeah, part of me still needs to be able to demonstrate that actually I achieved something in that day off. Otherwise, why would I create a video? Does anyone want to sit and watch a video of me going, I had a day off? I sat on the sofa and did nothing. It was great. Or it was a bit crap, but by the end of it, I felt amazing. Don't know that people would want to watch that. But yeah, that is my experience in a nutshell. It was really hard. By the end of it, I felt amazing. The end, I could leave it there. But is that enough? Is that enough to make it worth your while watching this, I don't know, half-hour long video or whatever? Well, and what would other people's experiences be? I found it tough to begin with, but it got easier. What would your experience be like? And I think for a lot of us, just even the thought of doing that might be enough to put us off. I mean, it came close on quite a few occasions where I was like, oh, I just can't do this anymore. Just can't do this anymore. And then I was thinking, thank goodness I haven't booked up a Vipassana, or my bags would be packed, I'd be out the door. But what else did I notice what benefits has this given to me long term. Well, so one of the things I realized in my day of sitting was that although I've done a lot of self-development work, I realized that the death of a family member, my nana actually, I hadn't grieved her. At the time, I was in a very toxic relationship, and all of my energy was going into holding that relationship together. And just something about sitting in the stillness. And my nana was a very calm person. She loved a sofa sit. And yeah, just being in that space of peace and calm, I just had that realization come to me, and in my 20 years of therapy, that realization has just not emerged at all. I mean, I've had quite a lot of stuff to work, other stuff to work through, and so relative to the other things I've worked through, perhaps my nan's death just was not on, you know, my priority list. But that was really a bolt from the blue, actually. And it's interesting that there are things that we just are, it's so much in our blind spots. No matter how much self-development work you do, there's still, you know, big stuff often that we just sort of airbrush over because we don't want to sit and feel sad. We don't want to sit and cry because that's horrible. We might, you know, there might be snot, or we might, you know, get a bit red and puffy. And I think just giving myself that day, it didn't matter. Did not matter how many tissues I got through. Didn't matter that I, you know, was red and bloated and all the rest of it. And so even though that was a very painful part of the day, yeah, just going through that process was very sad but very freeing, and kind of beautiful in a very strange way, and it helped me to just spend some time thinking about her and thinking about my relationship with her, and just realizing that actually I need to do this for myself going forward, because if you've watched any of my other videos about recovering from heartbreak, I quite often talk about, you know, it's a similar process to grieving the loss of someone. And so taking this time to actively allow ourselves the space, because if we don't do that, life just takes over. It's really hard to organically or spontaneously allow that time, or I find it very hard to just, you know, have the time. And so carving that day out was really important. So that was a massive, huge realization, and one of the really lovely parts of that was I'd my nan had given me a locket when I was a teenager, and in the back of my mind, for ages I've been wondering where the locket is, and I've moved quite a few times, and part of me was thinking, oh, I don't know, I might have lost it in a move. And actually just sitting on the sofa thinking about my nana, it suddenly came to me in a real sort of flash where it was. So that was really, I mean, that was worth the whole day on the sofa as it was. But that was something that I'm, very, very grateful for, and being able to have my locket back. Um, what else? I think one of the biggest realizations, sadly for me, is that as much as I really, really try to limit my social media contact, um, it's part of my job, and but it's not just part of my job. Uh, I generally only access my phone when I choose to. Generally have all notifications off, um, mainly because I find it too distracting, and I don't want other people's needs to disrupt my inner peace. And that's a very definite choice that I've made, so that I will only reply when I have the time and space to reply. I will only check my phone when I have the time and space to do that. Um, that is changing as my family changes. So there may be certain people that yeah, I will need to respond to kind of immediately, but as much as I possibly can, I have really limited that. And that's another kind of top tip I would share as a way of sort of helping to keep our nervous systems regulated. But even in spite of all of that, there regularly throughout the day, I had a massive urge to pick up my phone, to go and check it. I wasn't waiting. As far as I was aware, no one needed to contact me that day. There was certainly nothing urgent. And yet still the pull, the just the urge to do that. And so yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of reading around dopamine addiction, and if anyone's interested in that, there's a fabulous interview between Anna Lemke and Andrew Huberman. Andrew Huberman has an amazing podcast. Anna Lemke has written a book called Dopamine Nation, talking about dopamine addiction, and really interesting. And I thought I was pretty okay. I thought I had cracked that, and that I wasn't addicted, but I don't know. I think me, along with everyone else on the planet, probably still has a need, or not a need, a desire to numb out and to use and my phone still becomes a way of escaping the present, escaping reality. And of course I can sort of use the excuse of, oh well, my clients need to contact me, oh there's stuff I need to do on my phone. But this was a Saturday, so generally my clients wouldn't contact me on a Saturday, and yet I still found myself reaching for the phone. I didn't pick it up. What I did actually was I countered the urge by some quite strong self-talk around inviting myself to think about or consider why. So I decided that probably one of the reasons why I was reaching for my phone was that I wanted to check that other people were okay and that I wasn't needed. And so one of the things I invited myself to think about was, why was I putting other people's needs above my own? And I think for anyone who's watching who identifies with being a people pleaser, or being a recovering people pleaser, or codependent or enabler or empath, if you identify with any of those phrases, then that's something that is a constant, ongoing work in progress for me. But on a deeper level, was it that I was putting other people's needs first, or was it this need for, is it that I need to be needed, and that I only feel okay if I know that someone else needs me? I mean, that's going sort of deeper and deeper into codependency, and that's the sort of the theory around, why certain people will develop those traits. And I think it's a mix of both, and it's also that urge to numb out when, you know, when you're sat there on your own being confronted by emotions that are tough. They're really, really tough. So I think that's quite complex, but interesting, really interesting to have those thoughts and to really notice that process. Um, and but overall, I think I said I started the day with a sore throat. I did have a bit of a nap during the day. Um, by the end of the day, no sore throat. Um, the other thing that I noticed was that I was really checking in on my body, really noticing, when I was hungry, really noticing what that felt like the real sort of physiological sensations, whereas quite often I'll sort of, oh, just got to grab a sandwich on the run, or I'm not always really mindful of when I'm eating and what I'm eating. And having that day just really reminded me, it was a bit of a reset for me, really reminded me of, okay, starting to feel hungry now. What are those sensations in my body? Right. Rather than just, whipping up something really quickly to sort of dampen those feelings of hunger. Right, what is it my body needs? What is it that I've really got the urge? What am I craving? Like what will really nourish my body today, right now? And sort of really just slowing everything down and actually really thinking about it. And I took the time out to cook myself a really nice lunch, um, and just sat and really enjoyed it without any distractions. But again, just really very sort of like a real push pull of really enjoying that process, but also finding it really, really hard to not just take myself out of the present moment. So by the end of the day, my sore throat had gone, completely gone. I don't know what that was all about. I don't know whether I did just need that day to rest. Who knows? And as I said earlier, by the end of the day, I felt amazing. I felt lighter. I felt really, it's a bit of a cliche, but I felt really alive. I felt very grateful for everything I have. I felt very grateful for my home, for being able to take a day just sat on the sofa, doing nothing. And I feel as though I've definitely been able to carry some of that forward. I'm finding it a lot easier to put my phone away for periods of time. I'm finding it easier to stay present. And I would definitely do it again. Um, I mean, if this British summertime weather carries on, I'm going to be doing it again quite soon because going outside at the moment is not that much fun. um, yes, so that's pretty much it. I hope that's been interesting for you or helpful. Um, I suppose I just want to say at the end maybe a little bit of a kind of a, what's it, caveat emptor, is it buyer beware? Just uh you know that process that I went through, it can bring up really tough feelings, and so yeah, just make sure you do have people available, in case things, if you did decide to go through this process. I'm not necessarily recommending it. I'm just saying this is what I did and this is the experience I had. But yeah, please do remember that there are amazing organisations like Samaritans. If you did, if you did find this process tough, and make sure you do have people that you can reach out to if it feels too hard. But yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful that I did it, and like I said, I will definitely be doing it again. I don't know that I will be booking up a Vipassana anytime soon. It has made me realise that I need to be really humble and just really, perhaps I'm not quite as advanced as I had hoped to be after all of my self-development work. Having said that, like I said, after by the end of the day, I did feel as though I could have continued and done it into the second day. I chose not to. So maybe I could do a few days of it, but yeah, I'd be really interested if any of you have done Vipassana, what you thought of it, what your experience of it was. That I would love to hear about that. So anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye.